Hello, fourth grade mathematicians. Today we are going to talk about estimation. So remember, an estimate, say that word, estimate, is an answer that is close to your original, but can be easily calculated using mental math. You can use rounding or close to numbers to find friendly numbers to work with. So yay, this is going to be a great lesson. We're going to get to work with friendly numbers all day long and make things really easy for us to do in our head. Who doesn't love that? So, something to look forward to. Now, when you're reading a word problem, the key word that tells you to estimate is, do you know what it is? About. You might have said that. You'll hear it'll say about how many pages did she read in the year, or about how many um, pencils did the students use. That keyword about tells you, yay, I just have to find an estimate. So I always say, when you hear about, estimate, about, estimate, say that 3 times fast. About, estimate, about, estimate, about, estimate. Now we're going to do an estimating exercise that I hope you'll find as entertaining as I do. You're going to consider how you compare with the average American. In a moment, I'll show you statistics about how much food the average American eats in a given year. But first, let's calculate some of our own. So the directions say use your own weekly estimates to estimate the amount for the whole year. And just to get us started, I told you that there are 52 weeks in a year. You may have already known that, but I'm giving it to you just in case. We know there are 365 days, right? And that translates to 52 weeks. So 52, though, that's not a very friendly number for me to multiply by or work with. So what friendly number could you use close to that? You're probably saying 50. 50 it, as a multiple of 10, right, ends in a 0. It's going to make it really easy for me to multiply, especially now that you know all those extended facts. So I'll show you my examples, and then I'm going to let you calculate your own. So question 1 says I will eat about blank eggs in a year. I actually eat a lot of eggs. I really love hard-boiled eggs. So I'm going to say so I didn't tell you it. First I have to think about how many eggs I eat in a week, right? Because I have to use my weekly estimate. So actually in a week, I eat about 8 eggs each week. And then I know there are about 50 weeks in a year. So this was my weekly number of eggs, right? And now I'm going to multiply that by 50, which means that in 1 year, I eat, let's see, 8 times 5 is 40, and then I have 1 0 in my factor, so I put 1 more 0 in my product. Oh my goodness. I will eat about 400 eggs in a year. Woo! So now I want you to pause the video and calculate that for yourself. How many eggs do you eat in a year? So first consider how many in a week. My weekly number was 8. Yours is probably lower than that, but who knows? Maybe you love eggs even more than I do. So think of your weekly number and then multiply it by 50 and figure out how many eggs you eat in a year. Press play when you're ready for the next one. Okay, here's our next one, cups of milk. So I have to think first of my weekly number of cups of milk. I'm going to say in a given week, I maybe drink 4 cups of milk, I'd say, probably. And then if I want to do that per year, I have to say there are about 50 weeks in a year. So my estimate is going to be 4 times 5 is 20, 1 0 in my factor, 1 more 0 in my product. Oh my gosh, for me, it's about 200 cups of milk in a year. That's my estimate. Wow. And now I'll press pause and you get to do your own. You can come up with your weekly number of cups of milk, multiply by 50 to figure out about how many in a year. Okay, last but not least, let's do cups of yogurt. I probably have 3 cups of yogurt in a week, I'd say. So I'll do 3 times 50 to get my estimate for how many in a year. 3 times 5 is 15, one more 0. Okay, so for me, it's about 150 cups of yogurt. Interesting. Pause and find it out for you. And plus, press play when you're ready. So now you should have all of your estimates for eggs in a year, milk in a year, and cups of milk in a year, cups of yogurt. Now, these are not exact numbers, right? That's the point of an estimate. It's not like not like I know, oh, yes, by the end of the year, January 1st, 2021 till January 1st, 2022, or I will eat exactly 150 cups of yogurt. No, this is our estimate, meaning close to. I thought those were fun to find. Now let's look at some of the American numbers, and you can look at how you compare. So if you want, you could pause the video and read this more carefully because there's some interesting background about where this data comes from, but it's published by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And just to show you their estimates, the most current results show that Americans eat or drink about the following average amounts of these foods in 1 year. So for the average American, 249 eggs. So I was way over that. I told you I really loved eggs. I wonder where you compare. The average American was 362 cups of milk and 23 cups of yogurt. That was pretty low for I guess Americans don't eat that much yogurt in a given week. So that's just kind of some fun comparison of how you can use estimates in your real life. Now we're going to use an estimate to solve a multi-step word problem. Remember our 4 steps to problem solving? I want you to read these with me on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Read to understand, plan, solve, and check. So let's get started reading to understand. Michigan's quarterback, Joe Milton, throws an average of 17 touchdown passes per season. And I totally made these numbers up. The quarterbacks are real, but the statistics are not. Apologies if you are a Michigan fan versus an Ohio State. I know Miss Holtz loves Ohio State, so I wrote this one for her. Ohio State's quarterback, Justin Fields, throws an average of 28 touchdown passes per season. If both players played for their whole college career, which is 4 years, about how many more touchdown passes would Fields throw than Milton in 4 years? So the question here, do you spot it? It ends in a question mark. I'm going to underline it. If both players played for their whole college career, 4 years, about how many more touchdown passes would Fields throw than Milton in 4 years? So now I've read to understand the problem, but actually I should notice there's a key word here, about. That tells me I am allowed to do an estimate. So now I need a plan. And actually, even though the question says about, down here it does want me to give an exact answer too. You'll see that on your home link as well. It also asks you for exact answers. So now I need a plan of how I'm going to figure this out. So I'm going to actually write out my plan. I'm going to do with my real numbers that I would use. So I'm going to do my actual answer first, and then we'll go back and do the estimate. Some people do it the other way around. They estimate first, but I'm going to start with my actual answer. So let me look again. If both players played their whole college career, about how many more touchdown passes would Fields throw than Milton in 4 years? So I'm thinking before I can figure out how many more, I'm going to first need to find out how many passes Fields throws in 4 years and Milton in 4 years. So I'm going to put Fields and Milton and kind of organize my work this way. And I'm going to find the exact ones for now. And we'll do the estimate later. So I'll show you how I would find Fields if I wanted to find the exact. Let's see. Fields, it said, throws 28 touchdown passes per season, and he did that for 4 seasons. So I'm going to do 28 times 4. Oh, and this is why we're doing estimates, because we actually haven't yet done this type of multiplication in 4th grade math. You may remember it from 3rd grade, or you could figure it out with repeated addition. But let me just talk you through it quickly. Don't worry if this part seems a little confusing, because we will go over this multi-digit multiplication a lot more this unit. So I'm going to say 8 times 4 is 32, put down my 2, regroup my 3, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 more is 11, so that's 112 passes for Fields, or I'll write touchdowns, TDs. Okay, and then now I'd be ready to go figure out Milton's. So let me, actually I want you to see, how would you set up the problem if you needed to do it for Milton? Were you thinking 17 times his 4 years, 17 a year for 4 years? Perfect. And again, we'll do this one together because you'll practice these more later. 4 times 7 is 28. Put down my 8, carry my 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 more is 6. So he had 68 TDs. And then, though, I haven't yet fully answered the question, right? Because it said how many more. So my final step is going to be, what do I need to do now? I finally need to do 112 minus the 68, 112 that Fields threw minus the 68 that Milton threw to find the difference. So let me do some multi-digit subtraction. You should try this on your own paper, 112 minus 68, and see what you get, and then we'll compare. So I got 44. Give a woohoo if you agree. I got 44 touchdowns, 44 more touchdowns, right? Okay, so that was my exact answer. So I had my plan, I found each separately and then subtracted, and I actually solved the real answer. And now to check, we're going to use the estimate portion to help us check. So again, with an estimate, you just need reasonable numbers. So I'm going to do my estimate in purple. I wouldn't have done 28 times 4. That's going to be really hard for me to do in my head. So instead of 28, I'll work with 30. And well, 30 times 4, I know how to do that. I have a basic fact. 3 times 4 is 12, and 1 0 in my factor, 1 0 in my product. That was really easy for me to do kind of in my head. Okay, now let's do an estimate for Milton. Instead of 17, what number might you want to work with? Were you thinking 20? Me too. And then 4, single digit number, that's fine. I can work with that for now. So 20 times 4, you can do quickly in your head, you know, is 80. Okay, so now for my final estimate, I'm finding the difference between 120 and 80. That is a much easier those are much easier friendly numbers for me to work with. You even would be allowed to round these more if you wanted to change the 80 to 100. This is pretty easy for me to do in my head though, because I think, okay, 80, if I count by tens, I'd say, okay, 80, 90, 100, and I'm counting on my fingers, 100, 110, 120. So these have a difference of 40. So my estimate was 40 more touchdowns. My answer was 44. So is your answer reasonable? We can say yes, because my answer is close to my estimate. And now we not only solved, but we also checked that our answer makes sense.